Okay, Samir, so we are doing origin stories. It's kind of like X-Men, only not X-Men.
Definitely not X-Men.
Though you are like an X-Men. Your superpower is like forever young or upside, one of those two.
One of those two, huh?
And
Mr. Brightside.
we're figuring this out in terms of how we're gonna run this. We're winging it over wings. Our joint favorite food,
Definitely our joint favorite food. We bond over wings.
wings, and while there's the wing connoisseur, hashtag wing connoisseur, respect, dude. We have our own little list of top wings.
They do.
These are up there, and
Yeah.
the last time we had these were in Ito Airport,
Yes.
and they were like straight, like ding ding ding, top 3 of my wings list.
Delightful.
Though admittedly, today we're in Waterloo Station. Behind us, literally over there, a whole bunch of trains. We're literally on the platform in Brewdog. Thanks for hosting us, Brewdog. Although we did pay for this, so don't know what that means. Maybe you can sponsor us one day. Anyway, but they were massive wings. The ones in Edinburgh Airport.
These are
And
not quite what we had in mind.
like my wife reminds me, size matters, and in wings, size matters. So let's dive on in though, because these are great wings. So let's begin. And yeah, let's start. Let's start. Cheers.
Tough.
And all right. So normally this kind of wing conversation stuff is done over increasingly spicy wings. We're big fans of the show. Hashtag hot ones. First we feast. Love the show. We've done the competition in the office several times. The bomb is violently difficult. So we know why all the celebrities fell on that one. But this isn't the idea today. Today the idea is we're just two guys having wings, discussing origin stories. When we do calls of people, we often talk about the origin story of the sweat. But I want to kind of like step back. So right, this is the whole idea is we're going to step back. We're going to go back a step to origin story of when you started your Amazon journey. I want to kick off there if that's all right.
Okay.
So what were you doing pre-Amazon? What's the prequel story?
We're equal to Amazon.
Yeah, House of the Dragon.
I ran a web development company. From 2001 we started it. We're all the way through. I mean, it continued on. I shifted over to Amazon in 2012. But at the time I did that, I was running web dev. In fact, that's how I came to even think about Amazon, because we had a whole load of clients that got hit by the Penguin and Panda updates and lost a whole load of ranking on Google overnight.
We should put a little disclaimer what that was. So we probably hope that's edited in. Panda, what was it? Penguin and Panda updates?
Yeah.
Yep, okay.
On Google. So they just lost a load of search traffic overnight, lost their rankings. They needed traffic from somewhere else. I went looking, thinking, well, where else are people searching? And that got me to Amazon. I was like, okay, look, if I search for a product, I either search on a search engine, i.e. Google, or I search from Amazon. So I started looking at Amazon as a search engine.
So even in 2000 and something,
This is 2011.
2011, Amazon was still a product search engine.
I don't think it was
Well, you would have
necessarily-
identified it.
That's how I started. I kind of figured those are one or two places. That's where you could start. So then I went to learn. I was like, I need to learn this platform. It's an alternative for the brand we were working with. And yeah, that's how I started. That's how Amazon came onto my radar.
Web dev was working, took it a long while, but you're like, I want a bit more side hustle. So what happened? Because I've heard this story. I think it's really interesting. So let's go through this, because I don't think this kind of works anymore. Tell us about the first products you sold on Amazon.
Okay, so I'd identified that Amazon is a potential channel, but I needed to know how it worked. So what I did was I went to Costco.
Yeah.
I needed some products, right?
Yeah.
So I went to Costco and I was like, okay, I'm going to find some products. I'm going to list them on Amazon and sell them. So I went around Costco and but I didn't know which ones were going to sell. So what I did is I took photographs of all the best deals.
Yeah.
I then went back to my computer. I created listings for each of these.
Oh, wow.
Right.
You hadn't even bought them yet,
I
right?
hadn't bought them yet.
You just listed a mystery product.
All right, and yeah, and it was this important. It would have been in the Amazon catalog.
Did Amazon... Okay, so the barcode stuff was no issue.
No, but yeah, because they already exist in the catalog, right? I just listed on them. Here are the products. I took the price on you could buy it at and marked them up by 25-30%. Chicken shipping and everything, motion fulfilled.
Yeah.
And I just let it run, and orders started coming in.
Whoa.
Only a handful, but orders started coming in. But that was really good.
That's
and then
really cool.
when orders came in, I would go
You were drop shipping from Costco.
by PM, I would go pick up all the products that have been ordered that day, and then ship them the next day. And that was just my rotations there.
How many days were you doing this for?
I did it for like, probably 10 days, 2 weeks. And then I was like, okay, I get it.
This is happening now.
But then that's when I realized, I was like, okay, so for Amazon to work, you're competing for the buy box with other sellers.
Right.
So I was like, okay, really speaking, if you want to make this work, you should do your own brand, not sell someone else's. So then I was like, okay, how do I create my own brands?
I will unpack that a little bit. Yes, I find so much that interesting because so at the time, Amazon still had the barcode stuff. They still had buy box issues. There's no advertising then.
So there's no advertising, there's no barcode issues for my own brand. At that time, I didn't know GS1. So I just went and bought barcodes off of eBay.
Just do what second barcodes. Okay,
Yeah.
Hashtag don't do that now, guys. Don't do that now. Okay, and then you're like, how do I create a brand? Okay, so how did you figure that out? What did you do?
Look, I've been working in e-commerce, so I kind of knew some of the starting points, like register a trademark, create as a brand, need to get it onto the products. A handful of products I bought. Again, I bought in bulk from probably eBay sellers at the beginning. And then I looked at Alibaba. That was the other one. Some bulk sales from Alibaba.
What kind of products were you looking at?
I was looking at consumer electronics.
So this is stuff that it's sold on Costco. You're like, the Costco dropshipping era.
Yeah.
You're like, this kind of stuff works. Then how'd you choose the next set of products?
I looked at products that I was buying that I was not happy with. It was simply that. I was like,
So nothing, you're scratching your own itch.
Yeah, scratching my own itch. It was like, why can't people do this well? These products well. I was getting sick and tired of buying them on Amazon and then failing. So that's what I did. I went and I was like, let me just start testing this. So I bought, as I said, small unit numbers, put my logo on it, got stickers.
Those are stickers.
Put the stickers on. And then I was like, okay, let me learn this FBA thing. I think I quite like the sound of that. So put them into FBA, and I got them listed on 1 week, and the following week must have been, I don't know if it was half term or what, but we went away with the kids and they were quite young at the time. We're in Edinburgh. I'd set this target. I was like, if I can sell 5 products a day, right? That was my target. Okay. I remember I was on the upper deck, open top tour bus in Edinburgh, right?
Yeah.
With the kids. I opened my phone, looked at Seller Central, and I've already hit 5 orders at 11 a.m. I'm on holiday. I'm not working.
Yeah.
And I got...
And I'm earning.
Right? Passive income, right?
That's so cool. That's the dream.
And so I'm like, okay, there is something here. There's something in this. That £50 a day became £100 a day, then £150 a day. And I think from that, it was quite a quick acceleration to around about £500 a day. And you'll know as well as I do that £15,000 a month, I'm operating on 25-30% margins.
Yeah.
So I'm...
You're getting some money. That's the salary.
Amount, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, there is something here. But issues with product quality, consistency, all of these things coming in. I'm like, if I'm going to do this seriously, I need to get serious about my sourcing.
And then this is their next journey. And this journey, guys, I find really interesting. So I've heard this part of this, well, kind of the story, but you're going to like this.
I need to caveat this by saying, had I known the number of issues I was about to face,
you might not have done it.
In fact, knowing what I know now, I'm not sure if I would have done it yet. Right. So, but I mean,
this is the beauty of like being naive about it. Just rolling in and rolling back.
So just go for it. So I literally went, okay, consumer electronics, they're manufactured in China. I need to go to China. I need to find manufacturers. I looked online and was like, okay, what trade shows are coming up? Found the trade shows I wanted to go to, all over a period of about 8 days. Hong Kong and China. So it was Guangzhou for the Canton Fair, and Hong Kong for some of its electronics fairs. Booked a flight, booked hotels, and then I tagged on an extra, it must have been another 5 or 6 days, right?
Okay, this is a bit that he hasn't said. So Zemenda's all on the back of his credit card. So this is all happening not from like savings. This is like a credit card roll the dice.
Yeah.
What credit card was it, by the way? Amex.
Probably. Right.
Amex, you should sponsor us, by the way.
Yeah. No, it probably wasn't Amex actually at the time. Yeah, it would have been. Booked a flight. I head out. I land in Hong Kong. I go to the first set of trade shows. And this is the thing, like, all the Chinese manufacturers, and was so... I was able to get over those hurdles I hadn't been able to online, right? First of all, am I dealing with a trading company or a manufacturer? They insist trading companies list themselves as trading companies, so you know whether it's a trading company or a manufacturer. Right. And when you're speaking to them, you just know it.
And trading company means they're an agent, right?
They're a
They don't
reseller.
make it themselves.
Yeah.
They're reselling the product to you.
Which actually can work quite well if you want to buy in small quantities, but you need to know it's a really good trading company,
Yeah.
not just, someone that's tied in with a manufacturer.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that really helped was the fact that when I got there, I'd left these extra days on. So every time you go to a stand and start talking to someone, they come back with the same thing, which is, you should come visit the factory. And they must say this to everyone, and everyone probably fogs them off. But I was like,
Yes.
I'll come.
Win.
Yeah, let's go. I'm around for another 6-7 days. I'll come. So I got all of these invites
Yeah.
to go and visit factories. So then after this 8 days of going to trade fairs, I then spent another 4 days on the road all over Shenzhen, going to factories and visiting and meeting with the
That's so
manufacturers, having meals with them. I was doing like 4 factory visits.
And that's the little nugget, right? That's the nugget in there, which is like when you met them, you actually had meals with them, met their families. Did you go solo? Did your family come?
No, solo. This was solo. Back in.
First one goes credit card.
Yeah, it's credit card. Yeah. This is literally bootstrapping it.
Yeah.
So the nice thing about that was they were hosting me. They were so welcoming, right? And I really think
I'm very hospitable, so it's great.
extraordinarily so. But I built some amazing relationships from that first trip. And
Yeah.
a simple fact was like, because I was there and I'd had drunk tea, had food with them, I was like, look, for the ones that I wanted to work with, I was like, look, I really want to work with you. This is my plan. This is my vision. This is what I'm going to do with it. But I can only place a really small order in first. And I know you wouldn't normally entertain such a small MOQ. And because I was there, I got agreement.
And you were genuine, and you were human.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Help with cash flow and everything. So literally for most of them, didn't have to pay until the order was ready to ship. So I didn't even have to put a deposit down, which really helped with the credit card.
Yeah. Interesting. By the way, I told you we're at a train station. There's a train.
So yeah, that
So
was
sick.
So
The whole business because of what? If we summarize, hustle,
hustle.
credit card,
Yeah.
and just being a really nice guy.
And the most important thing, naivety.
And being naive. Yeah. Drunk and naive.
I placed the orders as I was leaving. Most of them were turned around in about 30 days, right? So they followed me back. Once I paid for them, I had them airship because I needed them quickly, yeah? So within a week, they'd landed. And then I had, probably about 45 days left before the credit card bill was due. I needed to sell those items.
That's awesome. Okay, so, and you have like a deadline. And if it was a Quentin Tarantino film, this is like next chapter.
Yeah.
Like fire sale. So, firstly, what product was this?
Chargers and headphones. Those were the two things.
Which are very
Earphones,
competitive.
Yeah,
Very
competitive.
Okay, so you were selling these competitive headphones. Did you sell it at a low price just to kind of clear it out?
No. I by this, so there was a process at the time. You started at a low price and brought the price up. That was pretty much the strategy at the time. So yeah,
we did
the
that.
first few. That's how you did it. Low price, brought it up relatively quickly. At that first order, I think I was probably up to about £800 a day. Pretty much doubled my turnover at that point.
Yep.
And then it was just a matter of trying to scale. So the biggest challenge then was keeping in stock. And obviously, when you're flying stock over,
Low cost.
it's a low cost. And there were things pro and for and against on this. So some of the costs were coming down because I was dealing directly with manufacturers, but I was doing small scale quantities, so that had higher cost to it. But I could see it. If I could scale it, it was going to become more cost effective. And so I just learned into that.
Well done. Well done. That's hustle.
No advertising costs, so to say.
And no advertising.
Yeah.
But one thing that still rings true is stock. Keeping in stock is a big challenge.
Keeping the stock's a really big challenge. The other thing that's important to point out is I didn't overextend. I tested the products, I tested the manufacturers. And so it allowed me that kind of period in which to do that and build some really strong products and some really strong... It's weird. A lot of those products they look like single purchase items, but a lot of people came back and kept on buying them because they were reliable.
Yeah.
Their reliability. I had the best reviews. On the products I did in the categories, they had the best reviews. My whole thing was, as long as my product's reliable, it doesn't matter if it's more expensive.
So it wasn't race to the bottom. It was like build the brand, like build brand, build equity. And actually, that's interesting because you told me an interesting fact. The guy who created your logo went on to work at
He went on to work at Apple, yeah.
as a designer.
Yeah, all the user interface on the iPhone. He is one of the key designers on that.
You helped him make it.
I helped him, and he helped me. So
I love that.
great guy.
And then you get going, credit card gets paid, you scale, you grow.
Yeah.
What happens next? You started recruiting. what happened to the team?
Recruitment wasn't too big on my agenda at the time because I mean, very much through that first year, I was pretty much handled it. But then I started pulling on members of the team we had from the web dev company. Yeah. So there were probably...
So this is still a side hustle?
Oh, it was a side hustle until, I think actually when we broke close to about 2.5, 3 grand a day, that's when it suddenly, yeah. So we're kind of hitting about, and that's $1 million turnover, right? And that's when it starts like, okay, maybe this is more than a side hustle. There's more to it. There's more growth potential here. Got to start looking at new countries. Everything starts to change around that.
New products, expansion.
Yeah. So that, Andrew was in the web dev company with me. He kind of came over a bit more on the product selection, was broaden it out, and really building on that side. I had James, who's still a member of our teams, kind of going through that, and Mark from design as well. So yeah, the team just kind of
super interesting
expanded on.
And then, so you basically handled £1 million business solo, and then you're like, okay, maybe I'll get some more people in, and we'll grow it further.
Yeah,
which is awesome. And your approach was conventional and unconventional. Firstly, Andrew is your high school buddy.
Yeah.
James, you recruited.
He was a 17-year-old apprentice in the web dev company when he grew up personally, and
and then he
recruited him in there, and
now
he's one of our senior leadership. Yeah,
that's amazing. That's amazing. Okay, it's the whole journey. Let's go through the next steps. So you're kicking butt, and then at some point you go, I want to scale further and expand overseas, or I want to do crowdfunding.
So we were looking at scaling overseas. Took a first attempt at it actually with the US, and the timing was really wrong for it. I didn't realize what I was doing. I made some schoolboy areas. Yeah. Definitely.
We did a podcast on it.
Yeah. And then realized that if I'm going to do this, I need some cash to really scale into the US in particular.
Yep.
So we did a raise on Seedrs, which was the equity crowdfunding platform, and then used that to cash flow the growth properly into Europe, which pre-Brexit time was a lot easier, and into the US. That was, we had some really good years after that. So that really worked.
Nice. And then somewhere along the way, Amazon came knocking at your door. You knocked on their door first, and then they knocked back.
Well, no, actually, they came knocking first.
Yeah?
So they came knocking first. I remember it was to do with the very first Prime Day, actually. It was in the run-up to that. And I can still remember the very first Prime Day. Must have been, we were talking about 2015-ish, I suppose it must have been. We have to look back and remember. I think it was 2015. I remember getting interviewed that morning as well, because I knew I was going to happen and run up to it. But Prime Day, I woke up that first morning, and we had done sort of like circa 11K by about 7 a.m.
Wow.
Right? We ended that day.
What was your normal run rate?
At that point, a good day would have been around about 3-4K.
For the whole day, and by 7 a.m. you were at that level.
Yeah.
That's
so
insane.
And then, almost triple that. We ended the day at 40K.
40K.
Yeah.
So you did like basically a whole day sales, like a whole month sales in a day.
So we were about 4K, about 10 day sales in a day. So that was pretty awesome.
But sorry, guys, I'm sick, so my maths was shit on that. I apologize.
Maths was triple. But so then the next thing I know, I'm being invited to go into Amazon, go into the offices to meet people, to talk to people. So go and talk to other sellers.
Yeah.
Which I'm fairly sure we met, or we were around that time. The first time I remember you, where you stood out though, I think we were doing the Amazon All Hands, which is where they get everyone in the company together. There was a massive auditorium. We were backstage in the green room, and they were filming our origin stories. And so now, this is the first time I hear your origin
Which I think is still on the internet.
Our origin stories are still on YouTube. I'm pretty sure you're right. But that's the first time I hear your origin story. Now, before we go to your origin, like the very, very beginning one, this is what made me think, I want to know this. I need to know this guy, right? So I need to chat to him. Because he was like, and I'll let you finish it off the line, but basically it starts with, I started off as a lawyer, but then I decided I was tired of. I'll let you take it from there.
Crushing people's souls. Yeah. That was the line.
Go on, give me the whole line.
Yeah, I got tired of crushing people's souls, so I went to work for the UN. That was the flip round.
All right, so tell me this journey. Right, go. All right. First of all, you qualify as a lawyer. Let's take it from there.
I qualify as a lawyer. Okay, so now it's your turn to eat wings while I hang back. So I've basically demolished my wings while you just hung out. And I apologize because you can smell the wings. They smell really good. Brewdog, you need to be sponsoring us. Or actually, Brewdog, bottle your sauce like Nando's does, and then we'll sell it for you. Get your people to call our people. Will be great. We'll make it happen. You know, you had to like smell these things and not
your people can just call us if they like. We don't really have people, but yeah, that's all good.
No, we got people. We got people.
If you're offering free chicken wings though, call us directly. So you started life as a lawyer.
So I started life as a lawyer. This is in New Zealand. So I grew up in New Zealand, which is why I sound funny. But I'm also sound funny because I got a cold, so I'm losing my voice. But I grew up in New Zealand. My dream was to work in economic development, and in many ways it still is. Yeah, I worked at a law firm. It was a really nice law firm. There were very nice people there. It just didn't sit for me. It just wasn't right for me at the time. In fact, I've thought about it now and been like, man, I was such a, like, you get these like young grads who just are so impatient about life. And that was me, and I was super impatient, and wish I had someone who could have like counseled me on this at the time, but life is what it is. So I ended up leaving being a lawyer because all our clients were big banks. So a lot of my big clients were big banks. And my job was to help the banks sell people's houses.
Repossessed houses we're talking about.
If they didn't pay their mortgage. Which makes sense. And it was the only thing was it was a global financial crisis. So there was a lot of, this is 2008, 2009. So there was a lot of like people who needed, or banks who had not received their money. Anyway, so I left that and I hustled my way into a role at the UN, which was awesome. Because for me, it felt like it was like a dream going to come true. It was like the next step in my mission towards economic development and maybe become a diplomat and do that kind of thing. Yeah, so then I went and worked as a communications intern. So my job was to visit each of the visit projects and write stories about them. And then while I was there, I have a passion for microfinance. I'm a big microfinance fan. And I'd read the book about Grameen Bank, Muhammad Yunus, who is now the leader of Bangladesh. So, that's a bad faux pas. I apologize, people of Bangladesh. But yeah, so I'd read that book. I was a big fan. And I also wrote a report on a microfinance project that I was visiting. And the UN guys got a little bit annoyed. Like, why did you review a project that wasn't your role and you can like sticking your nose where you shouldn't have? Then they go, can you do that again for our other projects? And so that became my new role. So my new role was a monitoring and evaluations specialist. And I would go around to different projects, write reports on them, make sure that they were like progressing as they should, giving recommendations where appropriate. And that was awesome. And then they offered me a permanent role at the UN, which I was like, cool, life goal tick. I really wanted one of those blue UN passports. That for me was like the fruition of that goal, which never happened. Because they're like, if you want to get a permanent role and to progress, you need to have a master's degree. But I didn't have a master's degree. So means I had to turn down the role, and I came back and I came to the UK. Actually, in between, I was a photographer. I went back to New Zealand and I sold the idea. This is in 2010. So I sold the idea of taking photos of random people in the street as kind of like this, like the people of Auckland idea. And I like pitched the idea to this organization, and I was like, how about this? And you just pay me to do these, to take photos of strangers in the street. And you can do what you want in the photos. And they like bought the idea, which I thought was like awesome. So I like hustled my way into a photography job, which then I didn't pursue. And then this guy, people of New York, humans in New York became a big thing on Instagram. And that guy became super famous. I was like, dude, if I just pursued that, again, this is that, maybe we're going into a consistent theme of like Ali being impatient. I should have not been so impatient and pursued the idea, because I could have become like the guy of humans in New York. Anyway, my photos are somewhere online, and I have a Flickr account somewhere. But anyway, yeah, that was the thing. And then I came to the UK, did my master's degree.
Did your master's in what?
Public policy. So master's in public policy at King's College, London, not far from where we are now, which was interesting. I met a lot of cool people, and ended up not using the degree at all, which I feel so bad. Like, my parents invested so much in me, and then I didn't, like, right now, I don't use any of the qualifications that I hustled for. I did pay for university myself, okay? My emotional loan, I, like, hustled my way through it and paid for the whole thing myself, but still.
I disagree slightly on this point with Ali, because I think what he actually was learning throughout all of this was the hustle.
Oh yeah, I hustled so hard. I mean, I paid for my first year of uni. I had 2 part-time jobs. I worked at a bar and I worked at the post office. and I also sold stuff. Like, so I used to sell Ruffler and polos when they were at an era when they were like really cool. I used to sell these bootleg Ruffler and polos and GHD hair straighteners. Basically, I realized there was a monopoly in New Zealand, and there's like a license. So I'd buy them from the UK distributor, get them shipped to my house in New Zealand.
It's great market.
Yeah, and
Love
then
it.
I would just sell it. And then the weird thing was, so New Zealand didn't have Amazon. They had this thing, and it still does this thing called Trade Me. So I sell them on Trade Me, and I'd be like, you can pick it up. But I didn't know where I didn't want people to know where I lived. So I would meet them in the like parking lot of a supermarket, and it felt like I was dealing drugs.
Yeah, okay, fine. That's what I'm doing. Drug vibes. Okay.
And it's funny because I asked one of my friends, like, "Hey, do you know about a GHD?" And she thought I meant like a
GHB.
GHB, like a date.
Okay, right.
And I was like, no, GHD. But yeah, so there's a lot of hustling. There was a lot of hustling. I hustled all my way, like hustled my whole life, and I hustled my way into my first role, which was was a project manager. Because after uni, no one would hire me, even though I was like highly qualified. I get to the like final round of so many like economic development job interviews, and they'll be like, by the way, I'm on this visa because it's in the UK, and they'll be like, oh, and then like interview over basically because I needed to be sponsored. So yeah, and then I hustled my way into a project management role, and I worked as a project manager for like a year and a half.
So lots of hustle. But how did Coconut Merchant start?
Okay, so Coconut Merchant I was working as a project manager, and my line manager was like, okay, so the guys that you're currently working for, they are going to be downsizing next year. So you'll have a job till next year if you want it, but they probably won't sponsor you. But my best friend from uni, so equivalent of your Andrew, was like, he needs someone to run this business for him because he's got another business that he spends all his time on. And I asked him, okay, so what's the business? And he's like, it's coconut products. It's like, oh man, like I spent my like so many years educating myself, getting to like a certain level, and now I am selling coconuts. Like this is the proudest moment of my parents' lives. Like what does your son do? He sells coconuts. But I would just be reading this book by Richard Branson, and one of the quotes on it was like, when opportunity knocks, at least open. And I think life is one of my biggest lessons, other than be patient, is life is about perspective, and it's about the way you look at things. And so I went and met with the founder of Coconut Merchant. He was a really nice guy. We had really shared values, and I did a blind taste test of the products. They tasted good. The ones he was selling were the ones that I thought were great. And then I realized this is an opportunity to help farmers in a way I couldn't help at the UN, because we could work directly with farmers like we do and make sure they get a fair wage or fair price for their coconuts, produce them at source, create local jobs, and then ship them out here and sell them, which was the like exact thing I was proposing at the UN, but I was getting lost in a pile of reports. I was like, yeah, okay, let's do this. And so I told my parents I'm not coming back to New Zealand. I'm staying in the UK, and this is what I'm going to do. Convinced them it was a good idea, and I'm very lucky that my parents believed in me, because I've always been fortunate that they kind of like have been willing to do that. But anyway, they did, and we hustled, and that's how Coconut Merchant kind of like really kind of started. By the way, for anyone watching, Zamir has now caught up and surpassed the number of wings consumed. So congratulations, you smashed it. I'm going to take a bite while you do that.
Here's the thing, right? It makes me smile when you said, like, all I became was a coconut salesperson. For two reasons. The first one is, when I first met you, me, my family, everyone knew Ali as Coconut Al. That was him. Yeah. That was who he was. And if I ever referred to, everyone would be like, oh, you mean the coconut guy? So, Ali Coconuts, Coconut Al, that was who you were.
Ali Coco. I'm Ali Coco on many people's phones.
So, but here's the thing, right? That first moment that I heard you in that green room,
yeah,
I can remember going through my head. Like, there's this guy going, I became a lawyer. I was like really super successful. I was doing something that takes a long time to get to, right? You hit a life goal, and then you realize you're just destroying people's souls. So you took a complete deviation, went to work for the UN, and then set up this coconut business that was ensuring that farmers, everything was ethically sourced to the point that they were getting money a fair rate, fair trade. You were delivering on this, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sat there listening to this, and I have to go next. And I'm like, I need a better origin story, right? Because what was my motivation? I wanted to make money.
But you were honest about it, which is fine.
Yeah, but I can promise you at that point in time, I'm like, I need a better origin story. I'm going to sound so crap after you. You can go and listen because they are on YouTube. So you can watch Ali's video and then watch mine and realize that inside I'm just thinking, I got to have a better story. I've got a question for you. That day after we'd done those recordings, we went on stage together. I was me, you, and there was a third person.
It was a third person.
Was it Karen Riddick or was it?
I think it might have been, but I'm not certain.
I think it was Karen Riddick. It was my feeling. Anyway, she'll be able to tell us if yes or no. But here's my question. Can you remember what music we went onto stage to?
I don't, actually.
I do.
Yeah?
I remember the music. It was, I think it was Black Magic by Little Mix. Is that a song? I think it's
How does that song go?
I am not going to fall for that one.
You just sing it.
You definitely never came close.
I actually don't know the song, though.
That was our so that's our song. As far as I'm concerned, Ali, that's our song.
I remember the song, but also I don't know the song by its name.
Black Magic, Little Mix.
We'll put it on if we can, and it's not going to cause any license issues.
Probably will, but hey, go listen to it on Spotify and you'll know. That's our song. Truth of the matter is, we went on for several years after that, just as really good friends, comparing notes and looking for a way to collaborate. And it was only in around 2019 when we came up with that whole hypothesis. I think we've been kicking it around for about a year before that. And we were like, look, why don't we hire in a couple of specialists that we wouldn't normally have? And it was that idea of an economist / mathematician and a consumer psychologist to understand how consumers are
What's actually going on.
Yeah. How consumers are making that decision and how we could build processes and strategies around that are better than the ones we were currently utilizing.
Yeah.
That project, we decided, I remember you saying, I've got a great name for the project. We're going to call it This Way Up. I even have a logo for it. And I was like, don't think we need a logo. But hey,
it works.
Yeah, that was awesome.
But yeah, that's the origin. If you want to hear the rest of the origin story, jump on a call with us. Sorry.
Yeah,
you can tell I do sales. So. Okay, all right, Zamir, so tell us the face mask story.
Okay, so This Way Up project was running. So we had data coming in and we were looking at search volumes. I'm sat there looking at the search volumes and I'm like, there's been this massive spike. This is we're January 2020. And there's this massive spike in face masks as a search term. And we were looking at global data, right? So it was European marketplaces, and it was in particular in Italy where I started picking up. But in general, I could see it. And my automatic assumption was, the face mask you put on skin? Like the mud mask, yeah? That's what I thought it was. And then so I typed in face mask on Amazon, and there's all of these surgical masks coming up, and I'm like, Why?
Why?
All right,
a lot of doctors.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but okay, this is something we can stop. So we ordered a whole load of face masks and they'd been in stock. Just to point out, these were not medical masks that we ordered. They were the ones that were being used by nail salons. So they were cosmetic masks.
Where did you order them?
I ordered them online from a website.
Just a random site?
Just a random site.
In the UK?
In the UK, I must have ordered like 300 boxes of 100, right, in each box. And then we split those down into smaller packs and sold them. And they sold really well. And so in the end, I was like, okay, I'll order some more. We were then getting supplies of these cosmetic ones, not the medical grade ones, because you need to stay away from those.
Yeah.
And literally, we sold face masks all the way through till early April.
Okay, we have to give context. Okay, the context is, this is before COVID.
I was not intending to profiteer.
So we didn't really know. No, I think that's the issue. What you're really saying is like, look, you didn't know what was coming, but you saw this data, and then
just responding to data.
Started buying it before we even knew what COVID was.
Yeah, we didn't know what COVID. Oh yeah, we didn't. I mean, we did. It was something in China at that point.
Yeah,
and there was a few things in Italy. But I was going to say we didn't place any more orders after the 23rd of March. So that lockdown, I think is. I was like, this shit just got serious at that point. So I was like, okay, I'm going to leave this to the.
No, I just point to like our whole the whole like. Look at data and see what comes in.
Yeah, but actually what was interesting there, I clearly didn't see the opportunity, Ali, right? Because at the exact moment I was like, I'm going to pull back out of this. There were some people who were like, you know what? I've never sold this before, but I'm going to go in for $100 million. I was on the wrong scale. I'm like, I'll buy £100,000 worth. They were buying £100 million worth, and I was like, okay, wrong move.
Fair enough. Okay, you sold it to the government, right?
Well, like I said, I did that. My mind didn't even go to even trying something along those lines. Clearly, other people did. They had the connections. They had the right neighbors, right? Look, that's what the data showed us, and that's what we responded to. It kind of worked, and then it led into something that was unexpected and something that affected all of our lives. But yeah, it was an interesting story. It all started from the data.
Clearly, we've had enough wings. I'm ODing on the wings, but it's been a fun ride. Hearing your origin story. Thanks for sharing that with me.
Thank you for sharing your origin story as well.
Credit card to speaker king.
Lawyer to entrepreneur.
Yeah, something like that. If you had fun listening to us today, guys, we usually give a lot more useful tips. But check out our podcast Upside on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and like a whole bunch of other places that you get podcasts on. And do us a massive favor and hit subscribe and like. Stay awesome. Much love.
One love.
Peace.